Hello, welcome to the Run Testers. My name's Nick and this is our full review of the Altra Vanish Carbon. So the Vanish Carbon is Altra's carbon super shoe. It's not got a full plate in it, but it's got a half plate in it. It's got a big stack of super foam in the midsole, and it's designed to create a lightweight, very aggressive racing shoe that has a zero drop, and some of the other key features you'll find on Altra shoes, like their foot-shaped toe box. It costs £220 in the UK or $240 in the US. Like I say, it's a zero drop shoe with a 33mm stack height at the heel and forefoot, and it weighs in at 223 grams or 7.9 ounces in a UK 8.5. So you've got this very breathable and lightweight mesh upper with really not much support at all around the whole foot. It's very much a very soft upper that's built to be lightweight and just kind of hug the foot. You've got the foot-shaped toe box there, which means you're getting a bit more width and hopefully a more natural fit around your toes than the slightly more pointy designs that are quite common on running shoes. And then you've got these terrible laces, which I complained about in the first run because they kept coming undone on the run. Then I had quite a few runs where they didn't come undone, and I thought maybe it's okay. I was triple locking them every single time, but then in my last run in the shoe, they came undone on a really wet day at a point where I was speeding up and starting to run a bit harder on the run, and I was just really annoyed at them again. So yeah, don't like these laces. I'd replace them if you're getting the shoe and using it long term. So the midsole is Altra's Ego Pro midsole foam. So I think it's a supercritical nitrogen infused TPE foam. Similar to other stuff on the market out there, it creates a very lightweight, soft feel that should give you a nice amount of responsiveness. You've got a Carbitex half plate, which is just under the forefoot of the shoe. And then you've got this very aggressive forefoot rocker design. So I would say the rocker is located 65% up the shoe, which is the furthest back their rockers have ever extended, and it does dramatically change the feel of a shoe compared to a zero drop shoe where the rocker would be much more forward. This does give the feeling on the run of it being a slightly higher drop than zero. You've got a hardened EVA foam outsole and pretty good coverage all around there around the forefoot and heel, with just a little bit of exposed foam there, which isn't likely to be a problem in terms of durability. So the Vanish Carbon is my first experience of a Altra shoe, and given that I'm usually a small size 9 and often get away with an 8.5, I thought an 8.5 would be the better fit for me with this slightly wider foot-shaped toe box. And it's been fine, but I will say on the longer runs I've done in the shoe, I have had a little bit of my toes bumping towards the front of the shoe. So I probably should have stuck with 9, which is my normal size. So I would say go true to size with the shoe. The heel has been okay for me, but I could feel how it could be a problem because there is not much support there around the tongue and heel and the collar, so it ends up feeling a little bit flimsy and loose around the foot, but haven't had any rubbing concerns myself, but it might be something to look out for if you are using the shoe. So I've done about 55k of running in the Vanish Carbon, and I've tried to do a fair bit of fast stuff in the shoe, as well as actually some general easy runs, because it has got a reputation as being a quite accommodating carbon shoe that you can use for a lot of general training as well, and that is what I found with it. Like, it is quite fun to use for different paces. I've done just all-out easy plods in the shoe and it's actually felt okay, but it certainly feels a lot more lively and better underfoot when you do up the pace. I've done some good progression runs, finishing at quite a hard pace, and just some general tempo runs in it, and the shoe certainly feels a lot better when you are doing that. It feels fantastic when you're doing strides, but then lots of shoes feel fantastic when you're doing strides because it feels fantastic to do strides sometimes. The foam is not the softest, I'd say. It's not really got a big squishy feel to it at all, but it isn't harsh or anything. It feels soft enough and you are getting a bit of bounce there, certainly when you do start upping the pace, but you're not getting the big squishy feeling of other super foams on the market. There's one run actually where I went out to do 15 miles in the shoe and I turned around quite quickly. I just had second thoughts about doing 50 miles in a zero drop shoe as someone who's not used to them, and I popped on the New Balance Fuel Cell SC Elite instead, and the difference in feel was absolutely dramatic in how much softer and bouncier the fuel cell foam on that shoe felt. So this Ego Pro is pretty good stuff, but I wouldn't really say it's in the top tier of foams based on my experience of running in this shoe. But I will say the Vanish Carbon does what all the good carbon shoes do, which is just make running a pace feel a little bit easier. Feels like your heart rate's a bit lower, so doing a couple of progression runs on feel, like putting in a good effort towards the end, I was just kind of running on feel, looking at my heart rate, and the pace being spat out was what I'd really expect from a carbon shoe, as in it was a little bit faster than I expected. And that's what you want to see from the shoe. It's a slightly different take on a carbon shoe to the other ones I've tested, but it's delivering the results in that way, in that you can run faster with a feeling that it's costing you a little bit less energy to do so. I'd also say that the outsole and the kind of wide platform in general creates a very stable, grippy feel, and one that's really reliable if you are pushing the pace in slightly dodgy conditions. Like, so yesterday I was running quite hard at the end of my run, and it was on kind of very wet asphalt. It was middle of, it was raining the whole time in the run. There was lots of wet leaves on the floor, and there was a couple of fairly steep hills I could take at speed, knowing that I was getting all the grip I needed from this shoe. I could take turns quite aggressively. I think it performs better than a lot of carbon shoes on the market for that. I don't know if that's because of the zero drop platform or just the outsole in general, but yeah, that was a definite plus to using it. It feels like you could attack down hills and corners even when it's slightly slick conditions and not worry about it too much. In terms of how the zero drop fared for me, so like I said, I'm a heel striker and I don't use zero drop shoes in general. I often find actually with the lower drop shoes, kind of around 4mm, if I use them a lot, I do get slight kind of calf complaints, and it's not really a problem on the run. I've just got to be a bit careful stretching them out, mixing up my drops in my rotation. I did have this with the Altra. Like, I've gone up to, I think, 10 miles my longest run in the shoe. Like I said, I didn't want to go out and do 15 miles in it. It just felt like it was possibly a bit of a risk in the middle of a heavy training week to switch up drops that much, but if you're used to it, obviously it won't be a problem. And on the run, I didn't really feel like the zero drop was very different to some of the other shoes I've been using. I think that is down to the very clear forefoot rocker you're getting on this shoe. So having used a New Balance lately, which is a 4mm drop, but again has a very aggressive rocker and feels like a higher drop shoe, this feels like a higher drop shoe as well to me, though I don't have loads of experience in running a zero drop shoes. But I say it's an interesting option to have there if you are looking to mix up your drops. It's got a lot of pace in it, it's got a lot of speed in it. I don't think you're getting quite the level of performance of the top super shoes because I don't think the foam's quite there yet, but it was an enjoyable experience to run in this shoe, and it certainly can do fast stuff well. So the Vanish Carbon is a very interesting carbon shoe. I'm pleased I've tested it. I think it's a really good shoe. Certainly if you're someone who sticks religiously to zero drop shoes and Altra shoes, then you have now got a pretty good racing option that does what you want a carbon racing shoe to do, which is to make those hard runs, hard paces feel a little bit more easy, doing them at slightly lower heart rates, which is what you get from all kind of carbon super shoes. For me, I didn't feel it performed as well as the carbon super shoes I've been testing all year. The foam, I think, isn't as bouncy, isn't as exciting and propulsive as the best foams on the market. Things like Fuel Cell, Power Run PB, Zoom X, even Light Strike Pro. It's a good foam. It's not the softest. I'm not sure how it would feel deep into a race because it is a little bit firmer than some of those foams. But yeah, it's a good foam, and the shoe delivers a decently quick ride if you're looking for that kind of thing. So if you're not that fussed about looking at zero drop shoes, there are certainly better carbon options out there. This is an interesting shoe, I think, to have in a rotation potentially, because I do think it can handle quite a lot of daily training quite well, and it certainly is a good option for things like tempo runs if you are looking to mix up your drops, but then the price becomes prohibitive because it is pitched right up against the best carbon shoes in the market, and I'd say across the board, I would say those shoes give you a slightly higher level of performance than the Vanish Carbon. It does seem like a shoe that's often in sales quite cheap. Maybe it's an interesting alternative then, but it's not a shoe that I'd be reaching for ahead of lots of other carbon shoes, or even plated training shoes like the Saucony Endorphin Speed 3. I think just give you a bit more with the rocker design, the foam in there, and even the nylon plate there. So while this is a good shoe, and I enjoy using it, I think it's quick, I think unless you're very wedded to the idea of using zero drop shoes or Altra shoes, you're going to find something that's a bit better for you at a similar price or a lot less. That's a review of the Altra Vanish Carbon. Let us know what you think in the comments below. Is this a shoe you've used, you've loved? If you're a big Altra fan, has this been noticeably quicker and more exciting to use than the other Altra shoes in the range? Please do like and subscribe, ring the little bell, and we'll see you next time.